Hello everyone. In today's video, we will be looking into the questions of GATE 2023, and in this particular video, our focus would be on the common part of 2023 question paper. So, if you are preparing for the GATE examination, solving the recent past papers is going to be important revision for you before you attempt the GATE examination, and that's the idea of today's session. And we would be starting with the numerical part first. So unlike other gate papers, generally in gate examination you do have numericals in both 1 mark and also 2 mark questions. So in the 39 questions, there are a total of 39 questions in the common part. Of these 39 questions in the 2023 paper, the numericals have been asked only in the 2 marks portion. So we will be first looking into the numerical part, and then we'll be also going through the theoretical part, both 1 mark and also 2 mark questions. So once we complete the numericals, we'll go through the new theoretical portion as well. So we are going to cover all the 39 questions of the GATE 2023 common part in this particular session. So let me begin with the first numerical question under the 2 marks. So it is question number 44. So the question goes this way. Let us try to look into for the numerical questions. The approach should be first go through the question, list down the given information, then try to understand which concept logic applies or is to be applied in the question, and you can solve it. So let us go through the approach for 44th question. The annual precipitation recorded in a town is 400 mm. So the intensity of the annual rainfall is given as 400 mm per year. That's an annual rate of intensity of rainfall. The rainwater is being collected from a flat roof of a building and is then treated to potable standards and stored. The water loss due to evaporation, transmission and treatment is 40%. So it is given that the loss of water during treatment and storage is 40%. So what is the effectively collected water, or what is the percentage of the water being effectively collected? So let me, that can be related to the runoff coefficient in terms of quantity of runoff calculation. So which comes out to be the effective collected water, the effective runoff water which has been stored in the tank, that's coming out to be 60%, which as a decimal fraction is going to be 0.6, because 60% is nothing but 60 divided by 100, which is coming out to be 0.6. That is the value of C. Further, it says the roof area is 500 square meter. Now we have the area of the catchment, or the area where the rainwater is being collected from, the effective percentage of collected rainwater and the intensity. These pieces of information can be used to calculate the volume of water collected in an year. But they're not just asking us the volume of water being collected in a year, they're asking us for how. So if you read the question further, there are 3 occupants with an average demand of 200 LPCD. The stored rainwater will be adequate for the household's daily use for dash days. For how many days this collected rainwater will be useful for the 3 occupants? That's the question. So for that, first we need to find out what is the quantity of rainwater. For that, we'll be applying the rational method of calculating the volume of runoff or the volume of storage, which is the coefficient of collection or coefficient of runoff into intensity of the rainfall multiplied by the area. Coefficient of collection or coefficient of runoff is zero point 0.6. Intensity of the rainfall, now this is in mm per year. I'll be converting it into meter per year because I want an answer in cubic meter for volume. So to maintain that consistency of units, it's going to be 0.4 meter per year. That's the intensity, and the area is 500 square meters. Now multiplying these, you can use your calculators to solve this volume. It's coming out to be zero point 0.6 into 0.4 into 500. That comes out to be 120 cubic meter. So this 120 cubic meter is the volume of water stored. This is not a final answer. They're asking us for how many days will this collected water be useful. So let us try to just remember this information. The volume of collected water is 120 cubic meter. Let me write that over here. Volume of water stored in the rainwater collection tank, that's coming out to be 120 cubic meter. Now to find out for how many days will this volume be sufficient, we should first try to understand what is the daily water requirement or daily water demand. Daily water requirement, for 3 occupants it is given as 200 liter per capita per day. So 3 into 200 liters, 200 LPCD, that's coming out to be 600 liters per day. That is the household's requirement, daily water requirement for the household of 3 people. That's coming out to be 600 liter per day. 600 liters, if you want to convert it into cubic meter, you should remember this conversion. 1 cubic meter is 1000 liters. Always 1 cubic meter is 1000 liters. So 600 liters is going to be 0.6 cubic meters per day. That's the requirement. Now it is simple unitary method here on. For one day, the requirement of the water is coming out to be zero point 0.6 cubic meter. For how many days will 120 cubic meter be sufficient? 120 is the volume stored. So this number of days it will be sufficient for is being asked. So cross multiply 120 into 1 divide by zero point 0.6. That would be giving us, you can use your calculators again, 120 upon zero point 0.6, that's giving us 200 days. So that's going to be our answer. The collected rainwater with an intensity of 400 mm per year over a period of a year, when stored with an efficiency of 60% storage with 40% loss, that's going to be sufficient for a family of 3 people for 200 days, considering 200 LPCD as the consumption rate for them. So the answer for this question number 44 is coming out to be 200, and this has to be an integer based answer, so without any decimals. So you can say 200 is the correct answer for that question. Moving on, let us now move on to the next one, question number 45. So we solve it over here. The next one, the primary school. So the question, the next question, it is based on estimating the amount of paint required. So will be, you can use your calculators for the numerical questions. So you'll be having an on-screen calculator available on the screen of the gate paper throughout the examination. So a primary school is having 8 classrooms, each having internal dimensions of 150 by 10 by 4. High 4 meter is the height. So in internal dimensions are given as 15 meter by 10 meter by 4 meter. That's the size of each classroom, and there are 8 such rooms. 8 rooms of this particular size. Only the internal walls of the classroom are proposed to be painted. Only the walls have to be painted, not the ceiling. So you'll need to read the question very carefully. Sometimes they would ask you walls plus the ceiling. So remember in this question they're only talking about the walls. So only walls are to be painted. Have that at back of your mind. Assuming a deduction of 10% internal area due to doors, windows, etc. So they are asking us 10% of the area is deduction, the deduction part. Deduction, what is deduction? Now if you're estimating the area to be painted, total wall area minus the doors and windows, that doors and windows what you have to subtract, that is given to be 10%. 10% is the deduction for this estimation of paint work for the doors and windows. They are saying the specification suggests 2 coats of paint application. So the walls have to be painted with 2 coats of paint. Furthermore, the spreading rates of the selected paint during the base coat and the finish coat, the spreading rate is given. For the base coat it is 4.5 liter per square meter. So for the first base coat, the spreading rate is given as 4.5 liter per square meter. So the requirement, basically how much paint is required per square meter, it is given as 4.5 liters for the base coat. For the second coat or the finish coat, it is given as 2.5. Generally you will require less paint on this finish coat, so that's given to be 2.5 liter per square meter for the same 1 square meter area. The amount of paint required for the job will be, what is the total requirement of the paint they are asking. For all such questions, whenever you want to calculate the total paint required, total number of tiles required, total number of bricks required, the first step is to find out the total quantity of work. Here we are talking about painting, so we should first focus on calculating the total area of paintwork. So paintwork is estimated in square meters, so let us first focus on that. Total area of paintwork, that's going to be the total wall area minus the 10%. So first you should first find out, so this is basically 90%. If you're deducting 10%, you will get 90% of the wall area. This is going to be 90% of the wall area. So first we have to find out what is the total wall area for 8 classrooms. So wall area for a cuboidal room, it is 2h into L plus B. So the wall area would be 2 times the height. 2h into height is given as 4 meter. 2h into L plus B is 15 plus 10. That's the total wall area. But there are 8 classrooms. So 8 multiplied by 8. That will give you the total wall area. But then only 90% of it is going to be the paintwork. So into 0.9. So I'm doing it in a single step. If you're confused, you can do it in individual single steps. First find out the wall area of each classroom. Then find out the total wall area by multiplying it with 8. then you can deduct 10%. So you can deduct 10% right away at the first classroom itself, or you can deduct it at the end after calculating the total 8 rooms of wall area. Either way, you'll get the same answer. So the total area of paintwork is going to be 8 into, so this part also is 8, and this is going to be 25 into 0.9. So that's the area of paintwork in square meter. You can use a calculator for this calculation and find out the area of paintwork first. So 8 into 8 into 25 into 0.9, that's going to be 1440 square meter. So that's after the deduction, remember. That is the area of paintwork after deducting 10% of area for the doors and windows. Now, the spread rate is given. Using that, you need to find out how much paint is required. So, paint required for the base coat first. So, if you look into the base coat, it is given 4.5 liter per square meter is the requirement. For 1 square meter, the requirement is 4.5 liters. But how much area are we having? We are having 1440 square meters. 1440 square meters, how much paint will be required? Simple unitary method again, 1440 into 4.5. So let me write that over here. So the paint required for the first coat, that's going to be 1440 multiplied by 4.5 liter per square meter. Similarly, for the second coat, or for the finished coat, it is 2.5 liter per square meter multiplied with the area of paintwork. So you add these two, this plus this, that's going to give us the final answer. You can use your calculators to do it. 1440 multiplied by 4.5, that's coming out to be 6480, plus 1440 into 2.5 or 2.5, that's coming out to be 10,080. So the answer is going to be, the final answer for this question, it is 10,080 liters. So that's the answer. Answer has to be in an integer over here. So you can see again they're asking us the answer in an integer. So the answer will be 10080. The 8 total liters of paint required to finish the paint work in this particular question. So let us now move on to the next one. That's a question from estimation for 2 marks in GATE 2023 in the numerical part. That's in the common part. The next common part question, this again is from the topic of project management, which is based on a network. Let us look into this question. Construction project consists of 4 activities. A, B, C, D are listed over here. The quantity of work, the manpower requirement, productivity of the activities are listed in the table below. So quantity is given in cubic meters, that's the estimation of the work. Then the manpower for all the 4 activities, it is given in people, how many persons are working on it, 8, 7, 5, 6 persons. Productivity as in the efficiency with which people are working, how many cubic meters of work is being done by 1 man day, by 1 person for 1 day. Then they have given the immediate successes, though that's the information given. The construction project will start on Jan 29th, assuming no holidays for the entire duration of the project. The project will finish on February dash. They're asking us the finish date. So if you know the start date, and if you want to find the finish date, you'll need to essentially find out the duration of the activity. And to find the duration, you can draw the network and find out the critical path of the network. That will be the duration. But for that, in order to draw a network, we have to know the successors or the precedence relationship that is known here. But along with that, you should know the duration. Instead of directly giving you the duration, they have given us the information of quantity of work, persons, and productivity. Now, using this information, we'll need to find out the duration of each activity. How do we calculate the duration now? Look into the, so whenever you're confused on such points, you can check into the measurement units here. So the work is given, total work, number of people, and the productivity in cubic meter per man day. So for example, if you look into activity A, the total work is 96 cubic meters and the number of people working on it is 8 persons. The productivity is 3 cubic meter per person per day, or per man day basically it is. That's the productivity. Now, if 1 person in 1 day is doing 3 cubic meters, how much work will 8 people do? So it is 3 cubic meters into 8. That will be 24 cubic meters of work per day. Now, then you can just 96 cubic meters will take how many days? If 24 cubic meters will take us 1 day. So using this, you can calculate the duration in days. So these are the steps. So what are we essentially doing? You're multiplying the productivity with the number of people. that will give us the work in one day. That is going to be in the denominator. X is going to be 96 upon total work divided by 24. So the steps, if you see, the duration is coming out to be essentially, if I write over here, duration is going to be the total work divided by the output per day. Output per day is basically the productivity multiplied by the number of people, that's the manpower. So that's the concept we are going to apply. Duration of every activity is the total work, the first column, divided by the productivity into manpower. So multiply this and divide it with the total work. So let us apply this concept and find out the duration for all the four activities. I'm not erasing this over here. If you use this formula for activity A, the duration is going to be 96 divided by 8 into 3. So you can simplify and find out the duration for it. Similarly, for activity B, the total work is 252 divided by the manpower multiplied by the productivity, that is 7 into 4. For C, it is 275 divided by the manpower, that is 5 into productivity is again 5. For activity D, finally, for activity D, the total work is 126 divided by the manpower is 6 into productivity is 3. So you can use your calculators. So even though it's simple calculation, and you can always use the calculator because you have it on the screen. So don't do any silly mistakes in hurry. You can take your time, slowly calculate in the question paper. So this is going to be 4 days of duration. Similarly, for B, it is coming out to be 252 divided by 28. So that's coming out to be 9 days. Then the next one, it is 275 divided by 25, 11 days of work or duration. 126 divided by 18 is going to be 7 days of work. So we have the durations now. You can draw the network easily using these durations and the precedence relationship. 4, 9, 11 and 7 are the durations. I have the durations of the activities and also the successor relationship of it is given. So let me draw the network right away by using the successor relationship over here. Activity A, the successor is C. For B, it is both C and also D. So the successors are given. So when successors are given, always the activities which will be the starting activities will be those activities which are not successor to any other activity. So if you look into the column, you don't find A in this column, you don't find B also in this column. C and D are found. There are four activities. C and D are found in the column. A and D are not found. Those activities which are not seen in the immediate successor column, those are going to be the starting activities. So let me draw the activity on arrow network diagram. Starting from the first node, you will be having activity A with the duration of 4 days and also activity B with the duration of 9 days. Why are these the starting activities? Because these are not found in the successor or immediate successor. These are not immediate successor to any other activity. So they are the first activities basically with the duration of 9 and 4 or 4 and 9 respectively. The next one, activity C, it is given activity C is a successor to both A and also B. C is a successor to both A and B. Now because A and B are in different nodes, if I draw activity C from node number 2 with a duration of 11 days, I'll need to join it with B also. So this is going to be the dummy. B and C will be the predecessors. Then comes C. So that's the correct precedence relationship. C is a successor to both A and also B through the dummy. So you'll be using a dummy over here. That's about C. And then D. D is a successor to activity B. And you see C and D do not have any more successors. So they will be the final activities. So this will be the ending node basically. D will be ending out or reaching to the same node. That's the same ending node. D with the duration of 7 days. So these are the durations. Now you can find out the total project duration by using critical path method. You can use forward and backward paths, or you can find out the longest path directly by listing out all the possible paths. So if I write down the possible paths over here, because it's a small network, so let me just quickly list down the, in larger networks, you can do the forward and backward path calculation to find out the project duration. But in small networks, you can quickly answer it by looking into the possible paths. What are the possible paths here? AC is one path. The duration of this path is going to be 15 days. A plus C, that's one path. Then BC is one more path, and BC, the length is going to be 9 plus 11, that is 20 days. And the next path is BD. BD is one more path, BD. So you should take continuous path from starting to ending node. BD is one more path, that duration is going to be 9 plus 7, that is 16 days. There are no other paths from 1 to 4, starting from starting node to ending node. The first path is AC, that's one path. This is the second path, BC, and BD is the third path. There is no other path in this network. The longest path clearly is BC, so you can now forget about the network. We have got the project duration. Project duration in critical path method is always the, what is the critical path? The longest path in the network, which in this question is going to be the one with the 20-day duration. So the project duration is 20 days. Now the final answer. The project is starting on Jan 29th. What will be the date after 20 days of work? So you should always take, this is the start day, so that is also counted as a work day. So 29th, so in the month of January you have 29th, 30 and 31. Jan has 31 till 31st day, so 3 days in the month of January. So 17 more days in the month of February, so the finish date is going to be February 17th. On the 17th day of February, the project will be completed after completion of this work day of Feb 17. So the finish day of the project is going to be 17. That's the answer. They have not asked us the duration. Generally in GATE exam, so they can sometimes ask you the duration. If they ask you the duration, the answer is 20 directly. But here they have given the start date and asked you to count what is the finish date. The finish date is going to be 17. So mention the date in numbers. They are asking us. The date in number is going to be 17. So that's the answer for this question. So let us now move on to the next one, that is question number 47. This is a question from housing, as you can see. So let us try to solve this question. So this again was a 2 marks question. For a privately developed group housing project, the ratio of total number of dwelling units of HIG to MIG to LIG, that's given as 3 is to 2 is to 1. So always you can assume, now the ratio is 3 is to 2 is to 1, the total number you can assume, let us say the number of HIG units is going to be 3x. Similarly, the number of MIG units is going to be 2x, because the ratio is 3 is to 2 is to 1. Number of LIG units is going to be x. So that's the ratio, 3x is to 2x is to x. So 3 is to 2 is to 1 basically. I have assumed the number as 3x, 2x and x. The proposed average size of HIG, the size of it, each unit is given as 100 square meter. That's the area of each unit. The area of each MIG unit is given as 60 square meter, and the area of each LIG unit is given as 30 square meter respectively. The ratio of the total built up area between MIG plus LIG to HIG. So they are asking what is the total built up area of this part to this part. LIG plus MIG, this plus this divided by the HIG part. That's what they're asking. The ratio is being asked. So let us try to first find out what is the total built up area of HIG. So let me find out all the three. For HIG, the total built up area for one unit is 100 square meter. For 3x units, it's going to be 3x multiplied by 100. So that's going to be 300x in square meter. Similarly, the built up area of MIG units is going to be 2x into 60. So that's going to be 120x cubic meter. So how am I getting this? It is number of units multiplied by area of each unit. There are 3x units, each unit is 100 square meters, so the total area will be 3x into 100, that's 300x. So similarly, built up area of LIG units is going to be x into 30, so that's going to be 30x cubic meter. Now, what is the total built up area of MIG plus LH built up area of MIG plus LIG together? That's going to be 120 plus 30, that's 150x cubic meter. Now the ratio which they are asking us, what is the ratio they are asking? MIG built up area of MIG plus LIG units together divided by the HIG units, area of the HIG units, high income group. That's going to be 150x divided by, for HIG it is 300x. So x and x gets cancelled, you will get a ratio of 1 is to 2, 1 by 2. Now, sometimes if they are asking you the question, the ratio will be dash, then the answer would have been 0.5. The ratio is 1 by 2. But here, if you look into the question carefully, they have given it as, given over here, the ratio of built-up area between MIG plus LIG to HIG will be 1 is to dash. 1 is to dash, so 1 is to 2 is the answer over here. 1 by 2 is not the answer. 1 is to 2 is the answer. So they're just asking us the integer over here. So the answer for this question is going to be 2. Not half, not 0.5, but 2. So read the question very carefully and see what part of the question is being asked. Like in the previous question, have they asked us the number of days or the project completion date? Like here, have they asked us the ratio or have they asked us 1 is to dash? 1 is to dash, the answer is going to be 2 for this. So read the question very carefully before you answer it into the box, and also see in which format are they asking us. They're asking us it in integer, so the answer is going to be 2. So the next one is based on surface development, so it is something related to, let us say, estimation topic itself. So if you look into the question again, the surface development of a three-dimensional object is shown in the figure below. So basically they have given an unfolded figure. The dotted line indicate the folds, so you fold the figure along the dotted lines. The dimensions given in the figure are in centimeters, so 1, 2 and 3 centimeters, that's the dimension. Volume of the three-dimensional object in cubic meter will be that. So first you need to visualize after folding what will be the 3D object. So if you see over here, there is a square with one corner cut off, and the remaining you have these as the walls. So if you look into the question figure over here, this is going to be the base of the figure, and these are the walls of the figure, and this is going to be the top. The base and the top are symmetric, are same. Base and the top are the same figure, one above the other, and you just have walls connecting them. So any solid which is having a uniform cross section from the base to the top, this is one such figure which has a uniform shape from the base to the top. That is basically an object, a 3D object obtained from extrusion method. What is extrusion? Three-dimensional extrusion. You take a plane and extrude it in one dimension. So that's the solid which you get over here. So the solid should look something like this. So there is a square with one of its corner cut off, that face extruded in one dimension, something like that. So basically it's a cube with one of its corner cut off in the form of a prism. So if you take an overall cube and cut off this portion, this prismatic solid, if you cut off from it, that's the solid with this as the base, obviously, right? So first, imagining the figure is very important. How do you find out volume of such figures? So you'll need to take, for any prismatic solid, the overall volume is going to be the area of the base or area of uniform cross section. So volume of any prismatic solid. What is a prismatic solid? Something which is obtained from extrusion with a uniform base to the top. So that is always the area of the cross section, area of the uniform section. The uniform section over here is square with its corner cut off, multiplied by the height of it, or height of extrusion. Even for cylinder, if I give you an example, so cylinder has a uniform cross section, uniform base, extruded. So volume of any extruded solid will be the area of the uniform cross section multiplied by the height, pi r square into h. That will give you volume of the cylinder. For any such prismatic solid with a uniform cross section, you can take it as area of cross section multiplied by the height. So first let us try to find out the area of this particular figure. It's a square figure with its corner cut off. So let me represent the cut portion with dot, something like that. So the dimensions are given. This is given as 3 centimeters, and this also is given as 3 centimeters. This is given as 2 centimeters, and this cut part is given as 1 centimeter. So that's the shape. So you can imagine it as a square with the corner piece cut off. So the overall area of the square is going to be 3 into 3, 9 centimeter square. The cut portion, if you see, that's a triangle with half into base into height. That's going to be the area of this cut portion. A base and height both are 1 centimeter. Half into base into height is going to be the 0.5 centimeters square. So the area of this solid is coming out to be 9 minus 0.5. That's coming out to be 8.5 centimeters square. That's the area of the cross section of a given solid. Now once you have area of cross section of the given solid, multiply it with the height to get the volume. volume is being asked in this question. So it is area multiplied by height. The area of the cross section or area of base, that is 8.5, multiplied by the height again. Height of extrusion also is 3 over here, as you can see. 8.5 into 3. So you can use your calculators again just to be safe, not to have any silly error in the paper. So 8.25 is coming out to be 25.5 centimeter cube as the answer. Because we have taken all the dimensions in centimeter, you'll get the answer in cubic centimeter. And they have asked us in this question, they have asked to give us the answer in cubic centimeter. The answer is going to be 25.5 for this particular question. So for 48 question number, the answer is coming out to be 25.5 in centimeter cube. That's the answer. They have asked us to round off to one decimal place. And if you see in this question, there is no irrational number involved like pi or something. So the answer has to be exactly 25.5. There is no range for such questions generally. In the official answer key for this question also, there was no range given for question number 48. 25.5 is the exact answer which you should type into the input box in the gate paper, because they wanted rounded off to one decimal place, and that's how you should answer it. Let us now look into the next one, question number 49, the last numerical, and we'll be looking into the theoretical part after this. A residential housing project. So let us look into the, again, it's based on something related to housing calculations, FAR. So if you see in this paper 2023, there are two questions, two numericals from the aspect related to built up area, housing, and FAR basically. A residential housing project is designed on a plot of 1 hectare. So the plot area is given 1 hectare. The car parking area is equally distributed between ground floor and basement. So the car parking is equally distributed in basement and also ground floor. Ground floor. Basically, let us say area of parking is given in the ground floor and also in the basement. Both area of parking are said to be equal. Equal area of parking is given in the ground floor and also basement. That's the second statement. Considering the given data, the number of cars accommodated in the basement will be dashed. They're asking how many cars will fit into the basement parking area. Area is same in both ground floor and basement, but if you look into the further data, FAR is given as 2 car parking area exempted from the built up area of FAR calculation. So the area of parking is not included in the built up area. 1 car parking is given for every 100 square meter of built up area. The area required to accommodate each car in the ground floor is 15 square meter, and the basement it is 25 square meter. Probably in the basement the circulation because of the layout is higher, but also the requirement of ramp and all. Probably because of that, the area requirement on an average is coming out to be 25 square meter per car. They're asking how many cars will fit into the basement. So the first step is to find out how many cars in all, total number of cars, how much is it? That's what we need to first find out. For that, we have the built up area. Built up area is always FAR multiplied by the plot area. So the FAR is given to be 2, plot area is given to be 1 hectare. So the total built up area is coming out to be 20,000 square meter. Because 1 hectare is 10,000 square meters, you should remember that. Now, number of cars, 1 car for every 100 square meter. So the number of cars will be total built up area, that is 20,000 square meter, divided by car for every 100 square meter. This will give us the number of cars. So for every, like this, unitary method, 100 square meter, for every 100 square meter you need 1 car. For total built up area of 20,000 square meter, how many cars are to be considered? So that's going to be 20,000 divided by 100 using unitary method. So this is coming out to be, total number of cars is 200 cars. 20,000 divided by 100. So that's going to be 200 cars. Now all the 200 cars are not going directly into the basement. The area is same. Now don't assume say 100 square meter of ground, 100 cars in the ground floor, 100 cars in the basement. That's not how it is divided. They are saying that the area is uniform. So first let us remember from the calculation that there are total of 200 cars. We'll now need to understand how many cars will be in the ground floor and how many cars will be in the basement. The area is given to be same. So the area of basement or area of parking in the basement and also the ground floor both are same. So area of parking in basement, let us say that is X. What will be the area of parking in the ground floor also? Area of parking in the ground floor also will be same X. So what is the total area of parking? Total area of parking will be 2x. Now the total number of cars is 200. So what will be the, if the area of parking in the basement is X, what will be the number of cars in the basement? So it is given that the area requirement, if you look into the basement part first, in the basement for one car we need 25 square meter. How many cars can fit into X square meter? So for how many cars can fit into, number of cars in the basement is going to be X upon 25, total area divided by area covered by each car. So the number of cars in the basement, number of cars, so let me write over here, number of cars in the basement is going to be X upon 25. Similarly, number of cars in the ground floor, number of cars in the ground floor, that's going to be X upon 15, because in the question it is given the area requirement for each car on the ground floor, it is only 15 square meter. So that's the number of cars in the basement and ground floor. The total number should be 200. So you can apply this X upon 25 plus X upon 15, that's going to be 200. Now you can simplify and find out what should be the value of X. So if you take the LCM for 25 and 15, you should get 75 here. So this is going to be 3x plus 5x, that should be 200. So by simplifying this, you'll get this equation, x is equal to, let me write over here, x is equal to 200 into 75 divided by 8. You can use your calculators to simplify that. So this is going to be 200 multiplied by 75 divided by 8, 1875. That's the area X. Area X is coming out to be 1875 square meter. What is X again? It is area of car parking in the basement and also ground floor. Both it is 1875 square meter. But that area of parking is not being asked. Area of parking in the basement we have calculated. Now the last step, that's going to be how many cars can be accommodated in this. How many cars can be accommodated in 1875 in the basement? So for the basement, number of cars which can be accommodated in them. What are they asking us? The number of cars accommodated in the basement. Number of cars in the basement are going to be 1875 divided by 25, because 25 square meter is the area requirement for one car parking. So that will give us the answer as 75. So this is giving us 75 cars. That's the answer. So 75 in an integer they want an answer, 75 cars will be the answer. So the only tricky part in this question, the number of cars parked in the basement and ground floor are not same. The area is same. That area is coming out to be 1875. How did I get that? By assuming it to be X. So whenever you have something which is not known and you want to calculate it, you can start by assuming it as X, and that's what we have done in this question. So that way you can easily calculate the answer to be 1875 is the area of car parking in the basement and also the ground floor. So in the basement you will be getting 75 cars, and the remaining, the balance of 125 cars, because total is 200, the balance of 125 cars will go into the ground floor. Other than this, you can also solve it easily simply by finding out the ratio. So if you can divide, if you look into the ratio of number of cars in the basement and also the ground floor, you can find out that ratio in terms of the area occupied. And you can see, so basically it's like finding out the ratio in terms of how many cars more will fit into the basement, and even with that you can find out the number of cars. However, you can easily answer it in this approach which we have done. You can use ratio and proportion based calculation, or you can start by assuming X and simply solve it. Either way would do it in the question. So that's about it. Let us now look into the theoretical part of the comment. So in this video, as I told you, in this session we are only focusing on the common part of the question paper. So the numerical question part is done. let us start by looking into the theoretical questions from the beginning of the paper, from the 1 mark questions right away. So if you look into this question number 11, that's the first question of the common part. The triad of secondary colors in additive color system is, so in additive color system there are two types. I hope you know the subtractive color system, the color wheel which we study about, that's called a subtractive color system. In subtractive color system, which is also studied in color wheel, the 12-part color wheel, there the primary colors are red, yellow and blue, and the secondary colors from red, yellow and blue, the secondary colors which you get by mixing the primaries, that's going to be orange, green and purple. Purple, green and orange. So purple, green and orange is in the options, but they're not talking about the secondary colors in the subtractive color system. They're talking about additive color system. So you'll also need to remember an additive color system. Additive color system is basically the study of colors with respect to light. So the primary colors in light are RGB, red, green and blue, and the secondary colors which you obtain from RGB, that's going to be cyan, magenta and yellow. So C and Y are the answers. Cyan, magenta and yellow. Option A is given over here. That's going to be the answer for this question. So A is the correct answer for this question. Now moving on. The next one, this question number 12, if you see, so that was the answer, cyan, magenta and yellow. The next question, the criteria that is specifically mentioned in the special conditions of contract SCC is dash. So remember, in contracts there are two types. So in any contract, particularly of government agencies like CPWD or say even any other like Coal India or say NHAI, National Highways Authority, any national PSU or generally the government agencies, they the contracts of such construction contracts of such PSUs or large bodies, even private companies also, the large ones, they have a standard format for their construction contracts. Contract will be having two main parts. Any construction contract, there will be general conditions of contract and special conditions of contract, GCC and SCC. GCC stands for general conditions of contract and SCC stands for the special conditions of contract. So basically, let us say for instance, if you take up an example of CPWD, they have a standard format of general conditions of contract. For any CPWD contract, this is going to be a part of it. So what is general conditions of contract? Something which applies to all the projects of that particular agency. It includes general points like say arbitration and law, which is applied for all the projects. Similarly, there is no different law applied or no arbitration. The sequence of procedure for arbitration, it is not, it is common for all the projects. So arbitration and law, labor regulation, which is considered to be common. So obviously there can be various pointers under it for so and so scale of project this will be applied, but then it is something which is common for all the projects. So something which is common part for all the projects to reduce the complexity involved in preparing the contract multiple times. General conditions of contract is something which has a common format. As far as special conditions of contract are considered, that part of the contract will have the information related to that particular project. Like for instance, scope and performance of work, scope of the project, site mobilization advance. So with respect to that particular site, something which is specific to a project will be under, so it is basically specific, project specific, you can say. Project specific part of the contract is special conditions. General conditions of contract will be common to all the projects. Now in this question they're asking which is mentioned in special conditions of contract. The answer can be both A and B, but this is an MCQ question. So because of that, because site mobilization advance is something which will be under special conditions of contract, because of this both A and B can be correct. Because of this because of this error in the question, this was given marks to all. In the GATE examination, marks to all basically will be marks to everyone irrespective of if you attempt the question or not. It's not marks to those who have attempted it, it is marks to everyone who has attempted the question paper. So marks will be given to everyone when there is such error. So initially the original answer key they have given A as the answer, but then site mobilization advance also is a project specific component, so that's the reason it was awarded marks to all. That's question number 12. Let us now look into the next one. It's a question based on software AutoCAD. Basically, the command employed in AutoCAD to create a mesh from a line or curve that is swept along a straight path shown in the figure is dash. So they have some figure. They swept along a particular direction, vector specific direction vector specified along this path, along a curve or a line. If you're so this is what extrusion. I was talking about extruded solid, prismatic solid, which is created by extrusion. So anything which is created with extrusion, what is the command we use? The command we use for this in the software of AutoCAD, it is going to be tab surf. That will be giving you a three-dimensional surface which is extruded from a given plane along a particular direction, along a particular line or a vector. So the tab surf will be the answer for this particular question on AutoCAD. The next one, so you should have a basic understanding on the commands used in software, basic software like AutoCAD. The next one, this one, it is a question, just a second. Okay, so as per Burra Charter, cultural significance means dash for past, present, and future generations. So they are asking us the definition of cultural significance. You can check Burra Charter 2023. There are some definitions given over here with respect to the cultural significance, that there are tangible and intangible parts of culture. So you can see what a tangible part, what is intangible portion. You should read the definitions given in the Burra Charter. Cultural significance is defined as per Burra Charter as historic, aesthetic, scientific, social, and spiritual value of past, present, and future generations. So that's the given definition for cultural significance. A is going to be the correct answer. The next one, question number 15. As per URDPFI 2015, now this again is based on standard from URDPFI guidelines. As per so the development guidelines, you need to remember URDPFI guidelines of 2015. The density range in persons per hectare suggested for overall planning approach for small towns and hilly areas is. So in the URDPFI guidelines for the land use structure for residential areas, so the density range for various components for various parts of the land use, that is given for both. There are two categories, small towns and hilly, and also plain areas. So the percentage is separately given for hilly areas and also plain areas. For hilly areas, the density for overall planning approach, that is given as 45 to 75 persons per hectare. So 45 to 75 persons per hectare is the answer for this question. That's for the hilly areas. For the plain areas, again, the standard would be different. You can have a look at the table given in the URDPFI guidelines for the density range for overall planning approach. That's the 15th one. Next, it is based on the definitions related to ecology or ecosystems. In ecology, the term niche refers to. Niche is basically interaction between a particular organism with its surroundings. So if you take up some organism, so it will be having a specific niche, ecological niche. Ecological niche is a term which was introduced around the terms around 1920s, around 1920, 17 was the time when this term was introduced for the first time in ecology. And ecological niche talks about the interaction with the surroundings of one particular organism. Let us say there is, for example, a particular type of fish which is found only in one type of water, freshwater lakes only. So that interaction between the surrounding environment with that particular type of fish or that species, which is, so ecological niche is particular to every type of organism. You can not expect a saltwater fish to be in freshwater lakes, right? So there's a difference of niche for every type of species and organism. So ecological niche is basically the way in which species interact with the biotic and abiotic components of an environment. So that's the answer for this question. Option A would be the answer. If you can also check the incorrect options and see if it meets that definition of ecological niche. The correct answer over here would be the way in which species interact with the environment. Environment is composed of biotic and abiotic components. What is the difference between abiotic and biotic components? Biotic part is basically the life present in that ecosystem. Abiotic part, because any species, it has to interact with the biotic component. It has to depend on food available over there. What are the primary producers in that ecosystem? That is important, right? It depends on the biotic components. Abiotic components also are important because the surrounding environment features the temperature levels, the soil conditions, the water nutrients. That's the abiotic component. So interaction between an organism with the biotic and abiotic part of the surrounding environment is called as ecological niche. That's a definition on the basic terms used in ecology. The next one, Lorry's model of metropolis includes two dash spatial interaction models. Now, the Lorry's model is a land use model based on transportation. So it is basically a model which is used in urban planning for spatial interaction of different zones. So in this particular model, basically the study area, it is divided based on the type of work which people do. So into basic sector, non-basic sector, and residential sector. So the overall the people, or basically the population under the study area, it is divided into these three parts. Basic, if you have a basic idea, a brief idea on it, on Lorry's model of division into these three sectors. Basic sector, or basic workforce, or basic say part of the workforce is that part of the population which works on the industrial setup, which is not distinct or specific to that particular region. Right? Non-basic part is something which belongs to the service sector, which is specific to that particular study zone. For example, if you're having a study zone, there are examples like, say, shopping malls, or say someone working in school. Those are specific to that particular zone. The work location is also within the same zone. Basic workforce, or basic so the basic part of the population, basic sector, is something which depends out of that. So their work is basically exported out of that study zone. So it is basically composed of two spatial interaction models that way, and both are singly constrained. So the equations of Lorry model are singly constrained equations in both the cases. Like for example, for the basic workforce, you have the constraint of location in it. So, and for the service sector, the constraint is going to be the population which is dependent on them. So it is always singly constraint model. Both the spatial interaction models of Lorry's model of metropolis are singly constrained. So this is a model in 1964, given in 1964. A couple of years later, there was a matrix also developed for this particular study. So it is basically a transportation land use model used for spatial interaction of urban areas. So that's singly constrained will be the answer. There is nothing called as unconstrained. You cannot have unconstrained equations in any model. There can be singly or doubly constrained generally. This one is a singly constrained model. The next one, question number 18. This question is based again on the techniques used in analysis of data. Select the methods that involve pairwise comparison matrix to quantify the weights of decision criteria. So when you want to take up a decision and there are multiple factors, you can compare pair of factors. You can take up two factors, give a weightage one against the other. For example, if you want to say select a particular site for school, and there are three possible sites, you will first list down what are the criteria you want to compare them against, and for every site you need to compare one criteria with the other, probably accessibility, area available, terrain of it. You can list the factors and compare it pairwise. This approach is called as analytical hierarchy process, where you basically list down the criteria. The first step is to list down the criteria involved to make a final decision, and then you have a pairwise comparison matrix. You prepare a matrix and compare them pairwise one against the other, give them relative weightage, and then you can find out the overall value for a given site to make a final decision on it. So that's analytical hierarchy process, where we prepare a pairwise comparison matrix by listing all the decision criteria. The next one, select a microorganism which is not an enteric pathogen. Now, enteric pathogen is, now this is a question which relates to the topic of water supply. You can check in URDPFI guidelines what are the various contaminants: biological contaminants, suspended contaminants, dissolved contaminants, colloidal contaminants. There are various types of contaminants in drinking water, or the sources of drinking water, and the guidelines for all these types of contaminants are given in the URDPFI guidelines. E. coli is something which probably everyone is aware of. That's an enteric pathogen, and enteric pathogen is that type of microorganism which stays in human intestine and causes, pathogen is something which causes some type of harm to the human body. Enteric is a term which relates to something which grows in the intestine. So cholera is caused by bacteria which basically starts or stays in the intestinal stomach. E. coli also is similarly which causes the diseases in people when it stays in the intestine. Similarly, Salmonella typhi, which causes typhoid, which again is enteric pathogen. B, C, and D are all enteric pathogens. The answer for this question is going to be A, which is not a enteric pathogen which causes diseases in human beings by staying in the intestine part. So B, C, D are enteric pathogens. That's a basic awareness question on the biological contaminants in drinking water. The next one, this again is based on the environment part. Select the publication by Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation related to environmental accounts as per UNSEEA framework. UNSEEA framework has developed a framework in which every country can publish their own environmental data, environmental accounts related to what is the total area covered under biosphere reserves, area under wetlands, or what are the environmental conditions, are there any implications of climate change, what are the steps taken by the local and various levels of government to come up with or to handle the environment of that particular country. So such a framework has been developed to publish data related to environment under UNSEEA, and India also started publishing this data from 2018 onwards. The first publication of NVSATs was in the year 2018. In the year 2022, it was the fifth publication. So NVSATs India is the answer for this particular question, which is a publication of the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, which publishes data on environmental accounts of various environmental parameters under the guidelines of under the framework given by United Nations SEEA. That's answer NVSATs is going to be the answer for this particular question. That's about question number 20. Next one, this is based on the urban planning theories. Urban is a Howard suggested the maximum population of garden city as dash persons. So I hope you all are aware about the garden city principles given by Ebenezer Howard, where there is a central city, and dependent on that, you have satellite cities surrounding it, which are surrounded by green belts. So that's a garden city model given by Ebenezer Howard, and there are some guidelines with respect to population and area for each and every zone. So the maximum population of a garden city as per the guidelines given by Ebenezer Howard, it is 32,000. So C would be the answer for this particular question. So the suggested maximum population for a garden city, for the central city of a garden city, that's 32,000. The next one, in 18th century English gardens, dash was used to eliminate visual boundary between garden and the landscape. So in the 18th century English gardens, instead of constructing a visual barrier or a compound wall, there was a concept of sunken fence. Sunken fence was basically a type of fence which was constructed as a protection but without a visual barrier, because a physical wall would cause a visual barrier. To avoid such visual barrier into the garden, the boundary of it was provided with a sunken fence, which would be the answer for this question, which avoids visual barrier, which is a concept related to 18th century English garden. So B would be the answer for this particular question. The next one, question number 23. There are four options over here. I think I'll need to scroll down to show you the fourth option, but first let us read the question. The figure below shows spatial arrangement of rooms in a building with access from exterior marked as entry. So that's the entry point. Identify the appropriate diagram showing the access to the room starting from the entry. So they're talking about the access diagram from the entry point. What are the various, what is basically the circulation path for this particular room? If you look into the question carefully, the entry point is marked at A. The connection from A is only to B. A is not connected to I or H. There is only an entry into B, and then B is connected to C. So the path would be something like this: A to B, then to C, and C is connected to D, then to E. C is connected to D, then the connection is to E, and from E it is to F. From E it is to F. It's a linear connection. From F the connection is to G, and from G there are two, say, access points or access rooms, that is to I and H. So that would be the diagram: a linear connection from A till G, and at G there are two access points I and H. So you can look into the options and select the most appropriate one. Here there's no link from A to B itself, so that's going to be an incorrect answer. Just give me a moment. Just a second. Okay. So the answer over here, the connection would be linear from A till G, A till G, and then there's a split at G. The correct answer for this question will be option B, which is the only correct diagram showing the correct sequence or link. There is no connection A to B here also. There is no connection A to B even here. So the remaining options you can directly eliminate by using the elimination approach. The next one, it is again a question based on fire safety. Let us look into this one. In high-rise buildings, the method adopted to prevent ingress of smoke in an enclosed fire staircase is, so from fire safety point of view, the staircase part and lift lobby part are something where there is a possibility of stack effect to take place. What is stack effect? Upward spread of smoke. So in any building, the part which can be vulnerable to spread of smoke and fire in fire accident is the shaft which is created due to the staircase or lift lobbies. And in such cases, we generally provide pressurization. Pressurization is a concept where we apply this particular shaft or the stairwell under a higher pressure so that smoke does not enter into it. How can you stop smoke from entering into that particular shaft? By having maintaining it at higher pressure. We generally use high capacity fans, exhaust fans in a particular lift lobby so that it is pressurized and does not allow smoke from entering in. So pressurization would be the appropriate answer for this question. Option B would be the correct answer for this 24th question. Next one, select the act which stipulates a prohibited area of 100 meters surrounding centrally located protected monuments. So I hope you know the guidelines in India for all the protected monuments. For all the protected monuments, you have a prohibited area up to a distance of 100 meters on all the sides. From the side boundary of the protected monument, you have a prohibited zone. And beyond this, up to further 200 meters, you have regulated zone. There is regulated zone up to 200 meters beyond the prohibited zone, and till 100 meters you have the prohibited zone surrounding a protected monument. Now, which act sets up these stipulations or these guidelines of prohibited and regulated area? It is the archaeological sites. It's basically Ancient Monuments and Archaeological Sites and Remains Act, which is abbreviated as AMASR. So that would be the answer for this particular question. Our Ancient Monuments and Archaeological Sites and Remains Act of Amendment and Validation Act of 2010. So that's the answer for this particular question B. The next one. Now, starting from question number 26, it's multiple select type question. In the question paper, you need not worry. For every question, it would be mentioned if it is a multiple choice or a multiple select question. So this is a multiple select question starting from question number 26. Select the options which include pair of Gestalt's principles. I hope you are aware about the Gestalt's principles, which are laws of visual perception. So there are various laws of visual perception, like from these options, proximity and similarity. For example, if I draw dots, something like this, all are similar. But if I ask you, what do you see here? You tell me there is a group of 2 dots here, group of 4 dots here. Why are you grouping these 2 dots together? Because they are close. They are the proximity to them, and these 4 dots are close to each other, so you'll group them together. So grouping due to proximity is one principle of visual perception. Similarly, there's law of similarity also in visual perception. Law of similarity can be probably understood something like this. Let us say, for instance, if I draw dots and then move towards drawing squares, if I ask you, what do you see or how do you perceive this as, you would tell me there are 2 dots and 3 squares. Why are you clubbing these together and these together? Because of similarity. These are similar components and these are similar to each other. So there is law of similarity, law of proximity. Similarly, you have law of continuity and closure. Law of continuity and closure is something like this. Let us say, what do you see over here? Even though I have left out some gaps, you will create a closure for yourself and say that this is a circle, right? So that's basically law of closure. So in visual perception, you have law of proximity, law of similarity, law of continuity and closure. There is nothing called as law of grain and texture, law of scale and proportion. These are not Gestalt's laws of visual perception. In Gestalt's laws of visual perception, you have law of Symmetry also is there, law of symmetry, law of proximity, similarity, continuity, closure. So A and B are the appropriate options in this given question. Moving further, select the options. Again, it's a multiple select question. Select the options which is or are not considered as primary air pollutants. Now, coming to primary air pollutants, as far as air pollution is considered, you have to remember about the term of air quality index. AQI, Air Quality Index, which is given by the guidelines of Central Pollution Control Board in India. Air Quality Index considers a total of 8 pollutants. So you have to go through the guidelines of air quality index with respect to CPCB. So the concept of air quality index, where the air quality AQI value is given ranging from 0 to so on till 500, probably create, which has extremely severe category. There are various categories. 0 to 50 is considered to be a normal good category. Then 50 to 100 is considered to be moderately air pollution level. So depending on the air quality index, you have level of air pollution determined. So with respect to air quality index, the parameters set by CPCB, there are a total of eight pollutants which are considered to set up this, come up with this value of air quality index, which includes the particulate matter PM10, particulate matter PM2.5. Then you also have the levels of nitrogen dioxide and O2. So on. There are various sulfur dioxide and so on. You can read about the various. There is the presence of lead also, PB, that is lead. So you can check the guidelines of CPCB for air quality index and what are the 8 pollutants considered in it. If you look into the options which are not, they are saying which are not pollutants. Obviously, suspended particulate matter is pollutants. Oxides of nitrogen, nitrogen dioxide obviously is an air pollutant, and oxides of nitrogen, that is nitrogen oxide, nitrogen dioxide particularly, it reacts with volatile organic compounds. Volatile organic compounds are released into the surrounding air from various say material we use, including paint or cleaning detergents or cleaning agents. They react with nitrogen dioxide in the air, and they can result in formation of ozone. So that again in turn will lead to creation of air pollution and smog particularly. So PM10, PM10 2.5, nitrous oxide, nitrogen dioxide, sorry, and volatile organic compounds are all pollutants which are not considered as primary air pollutants. The answer from this particular list is going to be peroxyacetyl nitrite. That's not a primary pollutant as per the air pollution standards are considered. That's something which you can remember. The next one, this is based on biosphere reserves in India. Now remember, you'll need to know about the wetlands in India, biosphere reserves in India, the protected national parks in India, having an idea on the geography of them, where are they located. That is something which you should be aware of from environment topic point of view in the gate architecture in the common part of the exam. So let us look into this question. The biosphere, select the biospheres in India which is or are listed in the Man and Biosphere Program of UNESCO. So out of all the 18 biosphere reserves in India, 12 are listed in the Man and Biosphere Program. So you can read about what is this Man and Biosphere Program, how many, as I told you, there are a total of 12 biosphere reserves out of 18. 12 out of 18 in India are a part of Man and Biosphere Program. You can see what is the total list of 12 biosphere reserves. They're asking which of these are a part of Man and Biosphere Program. The answer, Sundarbans is one of them. Sundarbans is also a part of Ramsar list of wetlands. There are 75 Ramsar listed wetlands in India, of which Sundarbans is the largest one. It is also biosphere reserve in India, which is a part of Man and Biosphere Program as well. Sena Ora is not a part of Man and Biosphere Program. Similarly, Majang Forest also is not a part of Biosphere Man and Biosphere Program. Gulf of Mannar, which is in Tamil Nadu, that is a part of Man and Biosphere Program. In fact, Tamil Nadu has the largest out of the 12 sites of Man and Biosphere Program. Three are a part of Tamil Nadu: Gulf of Mannar, Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve, and Agasthyamala Biosphere Reserve, which is both in Tamil Nadu and Kerala. For that matter, there are three of the biosphere reserves of Man and Biosphere Program out of 12 are in Tamil Nadu. Then in the second level, probably it is Madhya Pradesh, where you have Panna Biosphere Reserve and also Pachmadi Biosphere Reserve, which are in Madhya Pradesh. So you can check out the list of all the 18 biosphere reserves in India and which 12 of it are a part of the Man and Biosphere Program of UNESCO. You can have a look at it. The answer for this question is going to be A and also D. Moving on to the next one, question number 29. Now, starting from here, we have 2 marks questions. We've already solved the numericals of 2 mark questions. Let us look into the theoretical part of the 2 marks questions now. The first one, this is question number 29. They have given 4 buildings over here and asking us the spatial pattern. The dominant spatial pattern of these is being asked in the question. So, if you look into the first one, the National Assembly building, the National Assembly building of Capitol Complex in Dhaka. That's a building which is almost something like octagonal in shape, you can say, which has a centralized organization. So it is going to be 1 for this National Assembly building of Dhaka, which has a geometric shapes, voids created in the facade of it. I hope you all are aware about this particular building. Centralized organization would be the answer for this question. Louis Khan has designed it. The next one, Secretariat building of UNESCO, headquartered in Paris, that has a pattern, something which has a, you'll need to know famous buildings and their design, overall layout. That can also be a circulation of it and all, the spatial organization of it. It has planned something which has 3 radial wings, so radial organization would be the answer. So it is 1, then the radial organization for this. Fatehpur Sikri complex, I hope you all are aware about this Mughal structure, which was constructed during the reign of Akbar, is known to have a clustered layout, where you have various terraces, various open components which are all clustered together. It is famously referred to as city without roads, which in fact is also asked once in gate examination. Fatehpur Sikri is commonly referred to, or can be referred to, as city without roads because of its clustered organization. That's number 2 for R. And Shodhan House, designed by Lee Corbusier in Ahmedabad, that is well known to have a grid network, grid organization. So 5 would be the answer for it. 1, 3, 2, 5 would be the correct appropriate option, which is given in option A. Famous buildings and their layout. So this is, however, do not think that you don't get questions on architecture or architectural awareness in the common part. Yes, you do get famous buildings in the common part as well. So that's the answer for this particular question, option A. Moving on, the next one, this is question number 30 of the question paper. Match the part. Now, this is based on the National Building Code NBC guidelines, which can be asked in the examination again. So the question goes this way: match the parts of the residential buildings in group 1 with the respective minimum width in meter as per the NBC 2016 guidelines. Now, even it is advisable that you remember the guidelines for various spaces. You can find these guidelines in the Development Control Regulations, which is part 3 of NBC Volume 1. So you all should go through NBC 2016 Volume 1 Part 3, which has various guidelines, development control regulations. Important points to be remembered from this: the minimum size of a habitable room, the minimum area of kitchen for a washroom, of a toilet space. All these guidelines you can find it in the Part 3. The guidelines with respect to mezzanine floor, all these are found in the part 3 of Development Control Regulations of NBC 2016. So this is a question directly asked from that part. They are not asking us the area, they are asking us the minimum dimension of a room. For example, if you look at a habitable room, the minimum size of a habitable room as per the National Building Code is 9.5 square meter. But the minimum dimension of the shape of it, the plan of it, that has to be 2.4 meters. So for this it is 2.4 meter. For habitable room, for flight of staircase, the minimum width is 1 meter, the least from the given options. For kitchen, the minimum dimension is 1.8 meter, and for bathroom, the minimum dimension is 1.2 meter. Even using simple logic, you can come up with these minimum dimensions by looking into the given options. However, the answer is going to be 5, 1, 4, and for bathroom it is 1.2, that is 3. 5143 is the correct answer. 5143 is given in option D. So that's going to be the answer for this question based on NBC standards for the minimum width of a given space. You can also further check out the minimum area standards and all given in part 3 of the National Building Code. That's question number 30. Moving on to the next one, match the following city planning concepts with their proponents in group 2. Now, this is one of the very simple questions. This is something which everyone who has prepared for GATE examination will be aware about, various planners and their theories or city planning concepts given by various prominent theorists. So if you look into this particular question, radiant city, is a concept given by Le Corbusier. I hope everyone is aware about it. Conservative surgery is an urban design principle or urban design theory famously given by Patrick Geddes, which focuses on weeding out if you're having an urban area. Conservative surgery is a approach given. It was described by Patrick Geddes as a humane approach for urban development of a given zone, where he proposed weeding out the uninhabitable or so those dilapidated houses and creating urban design from it. So that's conservative surgery proposed by Patrick Geddes. Broad-acre city. So you can see from you need not even answer all. Generally, in match the following question, that's an advantage. Even if you know one or two, you can try to attempt to answer the question. Linear city is something which everyone probably is aware about very well. Surya by Mata. So even if you know one, linear city Surya by Mata, you can see you can right away eliminate option A and option C. You have B and D. Now, out of B and D, just by looking into Radiant City as the one with Le Corbusier, for P it is 3. You can right away select option B as the answer for this question. Broad-acre city. I hope you know this concept where F.L. Wright has given an approach where designed particularly for United States, where he said each family should be given an acre of plot and they can develop their 1 acre of plot. So that's the concept given by F.L. Wright for called as broad-acre city. So 3, 4, 5, 2. Option B would be the appropriate answer for this particular question. Moving on. That's planning concepts with the proponents. The next one, now starting from question number 32, this is multiple select question where you might need to select multiple. Now in multiple select question, it's not necessary that you will have only uh, 2 correct answers or 3 correct answers. You can have 1 correct answer also sometimes. Let us look into this question. With reference to planning and design of housing, identify the correct statements. Gross population density is higher than, let's try to understand the given options. Gross population density is higher or lower than net population density. First, let us select out of P and Q, any one option will be correct. Similarly, net population density is directly proportional to plot area. Net population density is inversely proportional to plot area. Any one of it will be correct. So by looking into the given options, out of P and Q, you need to select any one. Out of R and S, you'll need to select any one, or probably none, any one or none out of R and S. So however, the options are always talking about Q, 2. So out of P and Q, there should be one. Out of R and S, there should be one. So right away, probably there is nothing you can eliminate, I think. Yeah, all the 4 options make this point. So let us select which one out of P and Q. Gross density or net density, which is higher. So if you are having in housing, if say this is the plot area and the overall site, let us say, for the housing, of which you will be having some access roads, access points, then you will be having the remaining developable part of the land other than the road network and services. You will be having the remaining area where you can construct, where you can create plots, the plotted portion, site area and then the plot area. These are 2 different aspects. If you look into the gross density, you take, let us say this particular housing has 500 people. Now 500 people, when you take the gross density, you will take the total area of the site, and so that will give us the gross density, total population divided by site area. Whereas the net density would be total, same, the numerator is same, total population, persons are same, persons per hectare, that would be same, but persons would be same, but the area would be less over here. Plot area would be over here in net, the only developable part of the site, that's the plot area. So obviously the net density will be higher because same people are concentrated on a smaller area. This is a smaller area, this is a larger area, so gross density will be less, net density will be higher. Why will net density be more? Because same number of people you're considering on a smaller area over here, so that will be obviously higher. That's the first part you can remember for housing, always net density, because you are considering it on a smaller area, that will be more than the gross density. So which statement would be correct? Gross density is lower than net population densities. Q will be the correct option. On these two, you should select Q. The remaining part, net population density is directly or inversely proportional to the plot area. So that what is net density? It is nothing but population on the plot area or the developable site area. So it is inversely proportional, obviously not directly, it is in the denominator over here. Considering population to be constant, the density, net population density would be inversely proportional to the plot area. So inversely is mentioned in point S. So Q and S are the correct options from the given options. Which one? So this is, sorry, not a multiple select type. It is still a multiple choice question itself. Q and S you have to select. Q and S are correct. Option A will be the appropriate answer. The next one, we are still in those questions which are multiple choice, not multiple select. So the next one, the various missions are given and their objectives have to be matched with it. National mission on enhanced energy efficiency, national mission on sustainable habitat, national water mission, national mission on strategic knowledge for climate change. These are the national missions they have mentioned. The objectives are written, you have to match with them. So whenever you answer such questions, do not think, if let us consider you have not studied all these nations, probably you know one or two, so you need not worry, okay, I don't have something which is not known in the question. Don't have that thought in the examination. Always go with a positive approach. Read the question completely. You might find something in the question which will enable to answer you the question easily. So first read the overall question. You can see the objectives, gain better understanding of climate science. So you see climate science they are talking about over here. Weather insurance mechanism and afforestation of 6 million hectares of degraded forest land. Decreased energy consumption, they're talking about energy consumption in the third one. They're talking about water use, 20% improvement in water use, enforcement of automotive fuel economy standards using pricing measures. So these are the points here. If you see carefully, there's only one option which is talking about climate science. There's only one option talking about water over here. So national water mission obviously will be 4. So you can write something which you have decoded that part. So this talks about water efficiency. So national water mission, 20% improvement in water use, water use efficiency through pricing. Then there's only one option talking about climate science, climate impacts, climate change. So national mission on strategic knowledge for climate change, it would be gain better understanding of climate science impact challenges. Setting up a climate research fund. So for S it will be 1. Let us see if we can answer the question just by looking into this part 4 and 1. You have to go through all the options. R and S, 4 and 1 is found only in one option, 4 and 1. You don't see 4. So you can use this approach. Now I'm not saying that don't study or study less, but you can always answer questions even if you are confused on some parts of it. Have a positive approach, read the complete question, use elimination approach and come up with an answer. So the answer for this question will be 3541, national mission on enhanced energy efficiency. Again, energy consumption also, only one point of it talks about energy consumption, so that would be an answer for it. National mission on sustainable habitat, sustainable habitat has to do with respect to the housing, say, you can see over here, enforcement of automotive fuel economy standards using pricing method, that would be the option. So you can use elimination approach, because see, obviously national mission on sustainable habitat has nothing to do with afforestation, right? So you can use elimination approach or answer some part which you are confident on, and you can come up with an answer, particularly in the match the following questions. You can do that. From here, from question number 34, this is where multiple select questions start. Let us look into the multiple select questions now. The first one, select the options that is or are listed among the sustainable development goals articulated by the United Nations. Now this is something very important. In the recent past, at least one question is being asked every year. There are 17 sustainable development goals which you should be aware about. So 17 sustainable development goals, you have to remember all the 17. Like in the year before this, in GATE 2022, there was a question asked where they have given options and asked you to select which options talk about water in these 17 sustainable development goals. Such question also was asked. So if you look into the given options, globalization and free trade, that is not one of the 17 sustainable development goals. Sustainable cities and communities is one of it. So option B would be correct. Protection of indigenous cultures and architecture. No, there is no sustainable development goals which specifically talks about architecture directly. So C is not correct. Good health and well-being. So B and D are going to be the answers for this question number 34. So B and D. That's the answer for this question number 34. The next one, Select the statements that are true regarding building security services. So building safety, building security services, which of the following are correct, they're asking. So the first one, RFID, radio frequency identification device. RFID is something which is commonly used for access control. It is used for electronic access control systems. So if you look into these hospitals sometimes, or say corporate offices particularly, you have these RFID tags which they tap and enter into a door, right? So that is something which you can remember about. RFID is something which is used for electronic access control. A would be correct. Magnetic loop detector is used for fire detection system. No, magnetic loop detector generally is used to, it is sometimes used in understanding how many types of which vehicles are entering into a parking zone. It has nothing to do with fire detection system. Infrared sensor used for public broadcasting. Obviously, no, you cannot use an infrared sensor to make announcements. Iris scan is a type of biometric access control. Obviously, yes, biometric access control. You can scan your fingerprints or iris scan. These are the correct options for biometric access control. So the correct option for this would be A and D are the correct options for the building security services part of architecture. So that's 35. Moving on to the next one. Select the statements. Now, this is based on contracts. Select the statements that are true regarding quality and cost based selection system of tendering. So, in tendering, generally, we use two methods: quality and cost based selection, QCBS, and least cost method. So in tendering process, generally least cost method is where L1 is awarded the contract directly in the tendering process. There will be multiple contractors. The contractor who has quoted the least in the financial bid will be directly awarded the contract in the least cost method. That is L1, that's the lowest bidder. That person or that contractor will be awarded. In quality cum cost based selection, both the financial and technical bids are thoroughly gone through, where cost is not the only parameter, but the quality of the contractor and his past experience or the proposed quality of work, those are also given equal importance in quality cum cost based selection. Let us now look into the given options and select the correct combination from this multiple select question. Financial bid is opened after technical bid. No, that is not correct. Both are given equal importance in QCBS. An earnest money deposit is submitted before opening the technical bid. Yes, earnest money deposit is something which is submitted by all the participating contractors, not only the winning person. EMD is submitted before the opening of the bid itself, along with the submission documents or tender documents. Excuse me. So earnest money deposit is something which has submitted before the technical bid. Technically qualified bidder with lowest financial bid is always awarded the job. No, that's not correct. Lowest bidder is awarded the job in least cost method only, not in QCBS. Composite scoring system considering both financial and technical bids is adopted for awarding the job. Yes, that's correct for QCBS. Both quality and cost are given equal importance, technical and financial bid. So B and D will be the appropriate combination for question number 36. Moving on. Question number 37. Design of septic tank requires consideration of space for the following items. So in septic tank, if I talk about the design of septic tank, the overall volume or the effective volume of septic tank is composed of three volumes: the liquid part, which depends on the retention period, which basically depends on the settling rate. Because what is a septic tank? It is a storage tank. It is an anaerobic digestion tank where settling or sedimentation of the sludge also happens and digestion of the sludge also happens. For the settling of the sludge, you'll need to decide with a retention period which depends on the settling rate. Based on that, you will allow the liquid volume of the septic tank is determined based on that. Other than that, you have space for storage of digested sludge, and you also space for digestion of the sewage sludge or for the domestic sludge. So digestion space, storage space, this together will be the sludge accumulated, digested, and also fresh digesting sludge, and also the liquid part which depends on the settling rate. So if you look into the given options, what are the considerations you need to consider while taking up the volume of septic tank. Settling of incoming sewage, absolutely, that is important to find out the retention period. Settling rate is important. Storage of digested sludge, that obviously is an important parameter. Storage, because this again depends on the cleaning interval. If you want a higher cleaning interval, you need to have a huge storage volume in the septic tank. So storage of digested sludge. Installation of liner. Installation of liner is not something which is taken into consideration for volume particularly. Digestion of settled sludge, digestion volume also, depending on the population, you will need to provide space for digestion. So A, B and D would be the correct appropriate answer for this question number 37. Three options are correct. The next one, the next one is based on urban design. Select the or urban planning, you can say. Select the places which have adopted star pattern of French gardens in design of their urban form. Versailles is something which is well aware to be based on the star pattern of French gardens, and similarly Washington DC also is based on star pattern which is inspired from French Renaissance gardens. So A and B, Islamabad is based on grid pattern, mainly based on the concept of Dinopolis given by C.A. Daxiadis, and then you have Jaipur, which also is based on grid layout with 9 squares, 3 by 3 grid. So A and B would be the answer for this particular question, which are based on star pattern. So you need to remember famous cities, their urban form, and the planners associated with those cities. That is something which you should be aware about under urban planning. The next one, select the parameters required for determining peak rates of runoff using rational method. Now, rational method we have in the first numerical of today's session itself. We have discussed about the rational method already. What is rational method of runoff? Rational method of determining the quantity of runoff, volume of runoff, it is C into I into A, where C is the coefficient of runoff, I is the intensity of rainfall, and A is the catchment area, the area of it in square meter. So from the excuse me, intensity of the rainfall would be correct, coefficient of runoff, velocity of flow is not something which is considered as an input in rational method. Hydraulic mean depth flow also is not something which you find in rational method. The correct option for this would be A and B. That's a multiple select question for 2 marks in the 2023 paper, question number 39. Let us now move on to the next one. Question number 40. Now, this is based on the definitions of solid waste management based on SWM rules. Now, this is something which everyone has to go through. It's not a very huge document. SWM rules of 2016, go through the document and the important definitions of it briefly. There are some standards and guidelines. So, you can have a brief study of the SWM rules published by Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change of Government of India. However, you can also answer the question by using simple logic. Let us see what are the correct definitions over here. Dry waste means waste other than biodegradable waste and inert street sweeping. Obviously, biodegradable is not dry. This is wet waste. Dry waste is other than biodegradable, so that will be the correct option. Combustible waste. What is combustible? Something which can burn. Combustible waste means biodegradable, recyclable, obviously biodegradable, recyclable and reusable waste. You cannot burn them. You don't use them for combustion. And also combustion, the minimum calorific value itself should be close to 1500 kilocalories per kg. So this is a very low calorific value. You cannot use it for combustion. So this is not a correct option. Combustible waste, actually the definition as per the SWM rules is combustible waste is non-biodegradable, non-recyclable, non-reusable waste with a calorific value of minimum of 1500 something kilocalories per kg. So that is the definition. So this is an incorrect definition. The next one, domestic hazardous waste include expired medicine, CFL bulbs, discarded paint drums. That is correct. Next, biodegradable waste means any inorganic, obviously organic material will be biodegradable. So that is also inorganic is not biodegradable. Organic material, plant matter, food waste, that is biodegradable waste. So answers for this question will be A and C. So that's a very simple 2 marks question based on SWM solid waste definitions of SWM rules. The next one, Select the correct statements from the following. They have given 4 statements and you need to select the correct ones from the following. Let us read one by one. Introduction of automobiles led to urban sprawl. Obviously, when there is no automobile, let us say there are no automobiles, no cars, no vehicles, then the spread of the city would be smaller. Obviously, if there are automobiles, the urban sprawl, the spread of the city will be larger. So introduction of automobiles led to urban sprawl. Compact cities show relatively high carbon emissions. That is incorrect, because compact cities will have less transportation is a major contributor for carbon emissions, which will be very low in compact cities. So compact cities show relatively higher carbon emissions. That will be an incorrect answer, incorrect statement. Land use and transportation planning is interdependent on each other. Obviously they are interdependent. We also studied about Lorry's model, discussed about it briefly, which is a land use spatial model based on transport studies itself, I told you. So land use transport planning are interdependent on each other. Next one, addition of transport mode in an urban area does not change accessibility. If you are introducing a transport mode, let us say you're introducing a metro line into a particular urban settlement, will the accessibility change? Accessibility of the areas, obviously yes, it will change. They're saying does not change, so that's an incorrect option. So A and C would be the correct answers for the question number 41. Next one, choose the correct statement with respect to composting, which is a part of solid waste management again. Which of the following are correct for composting? Let us see. What is composting? Basically, a procedure where you prepare manure, organic. It is used in organic farming where biodegradable waste is generated, prepared, is composted to prepare compost or manure basically. So what are the options? It produces natural soil amendment and enhances effectiveness of fertilizer. Absolutely yes. Composting will help us create manure which can be added as a soil amendment basically. It produces natural soil amendment and enhances the fertilizer effectiveness. Warm temperature of tropical region is least suitable. Obviously no, because compost is more effectively created in higher temperatures in tropical areas. It is not least, it is actually best suitable for composting. So that's an incorrect statement. Composting is aerobic thermophilic process. Absolutely yes, because tropical high hotter regions are suitable. I told you it's a thermophilic. You can remember what is philia. Philia is basically love, liking. So thermophilia is something, a process which likes heat. So it's an aerobic. Aerobic is in the presence of oxygen. Composting is always an aerobic process. Fresh oxygen and air is required in this process, and also it is high at a higher temperature surrounding. It is more effective. So composting is an aerobic thermophilic process is a correct statement. The last one, there are two types of composting that are talking about here. Windrow composting and in-vessel composting are two methods of common composting methods, and that is correct. In windrow composting, you have basically rows of compost prepared in those areas with a non-absorbent bed. In vessel composting is where you have a composting procedure done in a vessel which is fit with mechanical setup which is used for proper mixing and allowing aeration of it. So D also is a correct statement. So three statements A, C and D are correct here. The only incorrect statement is B. Warm temperatures are least suitable. They are saying that's not correct. Warm temperatures are best suitable actually for composting. So that's question number 42. The next one, question number 43. The last question for today's session. Because from 44 we have already discussed it in the beginning, the numerical part. The last question. Select the items that are not stipulated as obligatory functions of the urban local bodies as per the 12th schedule of the Indian Constitution. So as per the 12th schedule of the Indian Constitution, there are a total of 18 points mentioned in the 12th schedule. There are 18 obligatory functions. What are the obligations of an urban local body? There are 18 such obligatory functions given in the 12th schedule of Indian Constitution. You need to go through the list and understand what are the duties of urban local body as per the 12th schedule of the Constitution, the 18 functions. From the given options, let us see which are not among those 18 obligatory functions of the urban local bodies. The first one, urban poverty alleviation. That is a point mentioned in the 18th file, because urban local body also has the jurisdiction on the development and redevelopment of the slums, rehabilitation of the slums, and also urban poverty alleviation. So slums also is one of those 18 functions, controlling slums and squatters in an urban settlement. Along with that, urban poverty alleviation also is mentioned as an obligatory function of the urban local body, so that would be correct. Promotion of cultural, educational, and aesthetic aspects of the settlement. That is not something which is mentioned under the obligatory functions. Special measures for disaster management, again it is not within the scope of the urban local body. Disaster management force is something which is governed by the state level government. Prevention of cruelty to animals, that is one of the obligatory functions as mentioned in the 18 obligatory functions of the 12th schedule of Indian Constitution for the urban local bodies. The appropriate answer for this question will be A and also D. Make sure you go through the complete list of 18 functions, obligatory functions as per the 12th schedule of Indian Constitution. So that was about the common part of the 2023 paper. I hope in the procedure of solving in the process of answering the questions, you have revised some basics and also learned about the approach you should have in answering the questions in something which you probably are not confident on or not 100% aware about. Let me end the session by telling one last point over here, which again I say this multiple times to all my students, that any question paper, irrespective of how the gate paper is going to be this year, it will be a combination of easy, difficult and medium questions all, and your target should be on scoring 100% in the easy questions. Optimize and maximize your score by scoring well in the easy part, as best as possible in the medium level of questions. Difficult level of questions, even if you're scoring something very minimal, you can still have a very good score with a very good rank, and that should be your approach. And also in addition to that, identify those questions without negative marking, like multiple select questions have no negative marking, so the numerical answer type questions also have no negative marking. Those questions without negative marking should not be left unattempted. You can take a risk because there's no negative marking. First try to answer it with 100% of the patience and knowledge you have. But if you're not able to answer something, you can still take a risk in such questions because there's no negative marking. So those are some key takeaways before your examination. Hope that was helpful. We'll meet you again soon in the next session. Thank you all.